Imagine you are out for like a highly anticipated romantic anniversary dinner.
Oh, setting the scene. I like it.
Right. So you go to this fantastic restaurant, you order a heavy, beautifully marbled ribeye steak,
Yeah.
some buttery mashed potatoes.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, maybe a really rich dessert to split. And then an hour later, anticipating the rest of the evening, you discreetly take a medication designed to help with physical intimacy.
Okay.
So you wait the prescribed 30 minutes, you wait an hour, and absolutely nothing happens.
At all.
Right, the medication completely fails. And, you instantly blame your own body. You assume your condition is worsening.
Or you assume the pharmacy gave you, like, a defective batch of pills.
Exactly. But the reality, the medication is perfectly fine. Your body is perfectly fine.
Right.
The actual culprit that ruined your evening is the butter on your potatoes.
It is a shockingly common scenario. I mean, it perfectly illustrates the massive disconnect between taking a medication and actually understanding how it operates inside the human body.
Yeah.
Because in that scenario, the patient didn't fail. The education around the medication failed.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is exactly what we are dissecting today. Welcome to this deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here.
We are taking a really deep dive into the underlying mechanisms of medication, specifically looking at a comparative analysis between Cialis and Viagra.
Which is such a critical comparison to make.
It really is. And we are anchoring this whole exploration on a foundational document called the iMedix protocol, comparing Cialis and Viagra mechanisms.
Right, from iMedix.
Yeah. And to be clear, iMedix is an independent medical information platform. And we're using their methodology today not just to talk about these two specific drugs, but to understand how comparing medications is like the ultimate tool for your own health literacy.
Because treating a medication like a magic spell,
Yeah.
where you just swallow a pill and hope for a specific outcome, it removes you from the equation entirely.
Completely removes you.
Right. So we are going to look closely at the chemical mechanics. We're going to explore PDE5 inhibition, the radical differences in half-life, the complexities of onset timing.
Oh, there's so much to get into.
Yeah, and why understanding the physical structure of a molecule dictates whether you should take it every day or strictly as needed.
Because the entire concept of taking a drug without understanding its mechanism is just wild to me when you really think about it.
It's very common, though.
Oh, sure. But it's like, okay, it's like boarding a highly complex commercial aircraft, sitting down in seat 14B and realizing you don't actually know if the plane is designed to fly to the next state or across the Atlantic Ocean.
That's a great analogy. You're just hoping for the best.
Exactly. You are trusting the pilot, sure, but you are handing over the entire control of your biology to a chemical without understanding its operational limits.
Right, and the iMedix materials make a very bold claim right out of the gate.
What's that?
That patients fundamentally, deeply misunderstand medication risks and mechanisms.
Yeah. Why is this information gap so massive? Like, why does that patient at the steak dinner have no idea that the fat in their meal just neutralized their prescription?
Well, to understand the gap, we have to look at the architecture of modern healthcare delivery.
Okay.
Think about the physical environment where you actually receive medical information. It almost always begins in a doctor's office.
Right. Sitting on that crinkly paper.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you are looking at a clinical encounter that is often severely constrained by time.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about like a 15-minute window.
If you're lucky.
Right, 15 minutes where the physician has to listen to your symptoms, establish a diagnosis, determine a treatment plan, write the prescription, and document the entire encounter.
In the electronic health record, yeah.
And so the actual educational component, that moment where the doctor sits back and explains the specific pharmacokinetic journey of the pill you're about to take, is almost always the casualty of that ticking clock.
Right. It usually just boils down to, I'm sending this script to your pharmacy. Take it an hour before you need it. Any questions? No. Great. The receptionist will validate your parking.
Precisely. And so the educational burden is essentially passed down the line to the pharmacy.
Which is its own chaotic environment.
Completely. What happens at the pharmacy counter? You are handed a plastic bag, and attached to that bag is a multi-page document printed in minuscule font.
Oh, yeah, those massive folded-up sheets.
We call those package inserts or warning labels. But we need to be honest about what those documents actually are.
Right. They aren't exactly bedtime reading.
No. They are legal and regulatory safety nets. They are populated with dense, impenetrable medical jargon.
Terms like concomitant use.
Hepatic impairment. Pharmacokinetic profile.
Just word soup for the average person.
Exactly. They are written by clinical researchers and liability lawyers for other clinical researchers and liability lawyers. They are not designed for a patient trying to understand their Tuesday night.
I've tried to read those. You unfold this massive sheet of paper that looks like a map, and the language is so intensely technical that it basically forces you to give up.
It's overwhelming.
Especially if you are already experiencing anxiety about whatever medical condition brought you to the pharmacy in the first place. You just want a solution, not a biochemistry exam.
And that anxiety, that cognitive load, is a massive barrier to comprehension.
Yeah.
When a patient is stressed, they do not have the mental bandwidth to translate clinical jargon. So they skim the document or they throw it in the recycling bin entirely.
Guilty.
And then they make a very dangerous assumption. They assume that because a highly trained doctor prescribed it and a highly trained pharmacist dispensed it, the medication is a perfectly safe, frictionless solution.
They completely outsource their critical thinking to the healthcare system.
Right.
Which is exactly why independent platforms that focus on translating this information are so vital. But I want to zero in on the necessity of that independence. Because if I go online right now and search for how Viagra works, I'm going to get a million results. What does an independent medical information platform actually offer the listener that a quick internet search doesn't?
It offers immunity from marketing bias.
Ah.
This is crucial to understand. A vast majority of the easily accessible, highly polished medical information online is funded by or adjacent to the pharmaceutical industry.
Which makes sense. They have the money.
Right, but pharmaceutical marketing is incredibly sophisticated. Legally, they must disclose side effects and risks, but the framing of that information is always optimized to promote the product.
It's the classic television commercial. You have a couple holding hands in a beautiful, sun-drenched vineyard.
Looking incredibly relaxed and happy.
Yeah, while a soothing voiceover talks at lightning speed about the risk of sudden vision loss and severe blood pressure drops.
Exactly. The visual and emotional narrative completely overrides the clinical reality being spoken.
You don't even hear the warnings.
The patient absorbs the feeling of the vineyard, not the warning about the blood pressure. An independent platform strips away the vineyard.
Okay, I like that.
It doesn't have a vested financial interest in whether a patient chooses medication A or medication B. Its sole mandate is to provide clear, unfiltered, rigorously researched clinical data.
So it's just the facts.
Yes, it takes the warning label and translates it into actual human language, focusing strictly on the medical facts without the promotional gloss.
But let me push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
When we talk about people not understanding their medications, isn't a lot of this just basic user error?
How do you mean?
Well, if the orange bottle says take on an empty stomach, and the patient ignores that and eats a massive steak, isn't that just a failure to follow simple instructions?
I see where you're going.
Like, why do we need a deep dive into the chemistry just to get people to follow the rules printed on the bottle?
This raises an important question, and it highlights a very common misunderstanding about what health literacy actually is.
Okay.
Reading an instruction is not the same thing as comprehending the biological reality behind that instruction.
Wait, if I read take on an empty stomach, I know what to do. What am I missing?
You are missing the why.
The why.
And the why is the only thing that actually changes long-term behavior. Let's stick with your example. Take on an empty stomach. Why does the bottle say that?
Because...
Well, I don't know, actually.
Is it because the medication is highly acidic and will cause severe gastrointestinal distress and nausea if it isn't buffered by food?
Oh, like it'll burn your stomach.
Right. Or is it because the active molecule in the medication is highly fat soluble, and if you introduce dietary lipids like butter or steak fat into your digestive tract, the drug will bind to those fats.
And then what happened?
It passes completely through your system without ever entering your bloodstream.
Oh, wow. Okay, those are two wildly different scenarios.
Exactly. If it's the first reason, the nausea, and you happen to have a very resilient stomach, you might ignore the instruction.
Right, you take the pill without food, feel perfectly fine, and suddenly you've taught yourself that the warning label is optional.
Yes. But if it's the second reason, the fat solubility, and you take it with that steak dinner, you are essentially swallowing a placebo. Because your body is physically incapable of absorbing the molecule.
Exactly. The label tells you what to do. Comprehension tells you how your body works. Knowledge is only protective when the mechanics are understood.
That makes total sense. If you just tell me a rule, I might break it if it's inconvenient.
Right.
But if you explain the physics of why the rule exists, I'm going to respect it.
Precisely.
And that perfectly transitions us into the core of the iMedix protocol, the actual comparison of the mechanisms. We have to look under the hood.
Let's do it.
So we are comparing Cialis, which is tadalafil, and Viagra, which is sildenafil. They are both designed to treat the exact same condition.
Yes.
So on a cellular level, what are these medications actually doing to the human body?
To understand how they work, we have to understand the specific enzyme they are targeting.
Okay.
Both tadalafil and sildenafil belong to a class of drugs called PDE5 inhibitors.
Right. Okay, let's break down PDE5. What is this enzyme and why are we trying to inhibit it?
PDE5 stands for phosphodiesterase type 5.
Phosphodiesterase. That is a mouthful.
It is. It is an enzyme that is highly concentrated in the smooth muscle cells that line the blood vessels of certain areas in the body.
Okay, smooth muscle cells in the blood vessels.
Right. Now, to understand why we want to block it, we need to look at the process of vasodilation.
Which is the widening of blood vessels, right?
Exactly. When the body wants to increase blood flow to a specific area, local nerve terminals release a gas called nitric oxide, or NO.
Nitric oxide. Wait, like the stuff used in race cars?
Same chemical formula, entirely different application.
Okay, good to know.
In the human body, nitric oxide acts as a signaling molecule. It penetrates the smooth muscle cells of the blood vessels and triggers the production of another molecule called cyclic GMP.
Cyclic GMP, or CGMP, right?
Right.
Okay, so we have NO creating CGMP. What does the CGMP do?
CGMP is the actual hero of this story.
Hero, okay.
It acts like a biological switch that causes calcium channels within the muscle cell to close.
And what happens when calcium levels drop?
When calcium levels drop inside the cell, the muscle physically relaxes.
Oh, I see.
And when the smooth muscle surrounding a blood vessel relaxes, the vessel widens. It dilates. This allows for a massive, rapid influx of blood into the tissue.
Right. So the muscle relaxing is what allows the vessel to open up like a floodgate?
Precisely. But the body is a finely tuned machine.
Yeah.
It doesn't want floodgates left open indefinitely.
Because that would probably cause other problems.
Huge problems.
Oh.
So it produces an off switch. And that off switch is the PDE5 enzyme. The sole job of PDE5 in this environment is to hunt down the CGMP molecules and break them apart.
It's the cleanup crew.
Exactly. As PDE5 destroys the CGMP, the calcium channels reopen, the smooth muscle contracts, the blood vessel constricts, and the blood flow is reduced back to baseline.
Okay, so PDE5 is basically shutting down the vasodilation.
That's its exact function.
So what happens when a patient has a condition where they need sustained increased blood flow, but their body is either underproducing nitric oxide or the PDE5 is working too aggressively?
That's when we introduce a PDE5 inhibitor.
So Viagra and Cialis enter the bloodstream and basically tackle the cleanup crew.
They bind to the active site of the PDE5 enzyme, effectively blocking it from interacting with the CGMP.
Because the enzyme is blocked, the CGMP builds up.
Yes, and it persists in the smooth muscle cells for much longer. The blood vessels stay relaxed, and the blood flow is maintained.
Wow.
That is the fundamental mechanism of action for both of these medications. They are competitive inhibitors of the exact same enzyme.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Okay.
If they both target the exact same enzyme, and they both preserve the exact same molecule CGMP to achieve the exact same result, why do we need to compare them?
What?
I mean, why aren't they just interchangeable clones of each other? It sounds like choosing between two brands of ibuprofen.
This is perhaps the single biggest misconception patients have about medications within the same class.
Really?
Yes. They assume that shared target equals identical experience. But while their destination is the same, their chemical architecture is completely different.
The actual molecules look different.
Vastly different. Sildenafil and tadalafil possess vastly different molecular structures.
How so?
Well, sildenafil is built around a specific ring structure designed to mimic CGMP, while tadalafil utilizes a completely different, bulkier multi-ring system to achieve the same lock and key fit into the PDE5 enzyme.
And because the shapes of the actual molecules are different, the body handles them differently.
Dramatically differently. The molecular structure dictates everything.
Like what?
Like how quickly it absorbs through the intestinal wall, how thoroughly it distributes into the tissues, how effectively it binds to plasma proteins, and most importantly, how aggressively the liver tries to tear it apart and remove it from the body.
That's a lot of variables.
It is. These differences in pharmacokinetics, which is the study of how the body affects the drug, mean that these two medications have radically different user experiences.
It's like comparing a sailboat to a motorboat.
Oh, I like that. That is a very helpful way to visualize the pharmacokinetic curves.
Right, because a motorboat and a sailboat are both designed to get you across the water. That's the therapeutic goal.
Exactly.
But the how completely changes the logistics of your entire trip.
Right.
The motorboat, let's look at Sildenafil, Viagra, as the motorboat. You turn the key, the engine roars to life, and boom, you have rapid, intense power.
Yep.
It gets you up to speed incredibly fast. But a motorboat burns through its fuel supply very quickly. It is an acute, high-energy, relatively short trip.
Yes, the onset and clearance are both rapid.
But the sailboat tadalafil, Cialis, operates under completely different physics. You don't just turn a key.
No, you don't.
You have to hoist the sails, you have to read the wind. It might take a little longer to build up that initial momentum, but once the sailboat is moving, it just keeps cruising.
It certainly does.
It can glide across the water all day and all night because it's not burning through a limited fuel tank in the same way. The mechanism of propulsion dictates a completely different set of rules for the person operating it.
And this is why the side-by-side comparison in the iMedix protocol is so illuminating.
Right.
It forces the patient to look at the fuel tank mechanics.
Let's attach actual clinical data to your motorboat and sailboat.
Okay.
The most critical defining differences between these two drugs come down to onset timing and half-life.
Right.
Let's look at sildenafil, our motorboat, first. Sildenafil is known for a rapid onset. So from the moment I swallow the pill, how long until the engine catches?
We measure this using a metric called Tmax.
Tmax. What does that stand for?
It's the time it takes for a drug to reach its maximum concentration in your blood plasma.
Okay, got it.
For sildenafil, the Tmax is typically between 30 and 120 minutes, usually averaging around the 1-hour mark.
So about an hour.
It absorbs quickly through the gastrointestinal tract and hits the bloodstream fast.
Yeah.
Because of this, it is strictly an as-needed medication.
Meaning you take it right before you need it.
You take it in close proximity to the anticipated need for vasodilation.
Okay, so a 1-hour runway. What about the sailboat? What is the Tmax for tadalafil?
The tadalafil is a bit more varied. Its Tmax can range anywhere from 30 minutes to a full 6 hours.
Wow, up to 6 hours.
Yes, generally peaking around the 2-hour mark. It has a slightly slower, more gradual absorption curve.
Okay.
But the true defining characteristic of tadalafil isn't how long it takes to reach peak concentration.
What is it?
It's what happens after it gets there. This brings us to the concept of biological half-life.
Right. We hear the term half-life thrown around in science fiction movies regarding radiation, but what does it actually mean for a patient swallowing a pill on a Friday night?
The half-life of a drug is the exact amount of time it takes for your body's metabolic processes, primarily your liver enzymes, to break down and eliminate exactly 50% of the active drug concentration from your bloodstream.
Half of it is gone.
Yes, it is the ultimate measure of the drug's durability.
Okay, lay the numbers on us. How different are the half-lives of these two medications?
The difference is staggering.
Okay.
Sildenafil has a relatively short half-life of roughly 4 hours.
4 hours. Okay. So you take it, it peaks in an hour, and 4 hours later, your liver has already scrubbed half of it out of your system.
Right.
A few hours after that, it's essentially gone. The motorboat is out of gas.
Precisely. Now, contrast that with tadalafil.
Okay.
Tadalafil has a half-life of approximately 17.5 hours.
Wait. 17.5 hours is the half-life?
Yes.
Meaning 17.5 hours later, you still have 50% of the maximum dose actively circulating in your blood.
That's exactly what it means. And it
Yeah.
takes roughly 5 half-lives for a drug to be considered clinically eliminated from the body.
So 17.5 times 5, that's a long time.
It is. Because of tadalafil's massive 17.5-hour half-life, a single dose remains clinically active and capable of significant PDE5 inhibition for up to 36 hours.
36 hours.
In some patients with slower metabolisms, it can be active for even longer.
Yeah.
It is the sailboat that just keeps catching wind.
But why, if they both block the exact same PDE5 enzyme, why does the liver destroy the Viagra molecule in 4 hours, but let the Cialis molecule hang around for nearly 2 days?
It comes down to hepatic metabolism, specifically an enzyme in the liver called cytochrome P450-3A4, or CYP3A4.
CYP3A4.
Yes. This enzyme is the liver's primary garbage disposal for foreign chemicals. Both of these drugs are processed by CYP3A4.
Okay.
But remember when we discussed their different molecular shapes?
Right, the different ring structures.
Yeah.
The sailboat versus the motorboat shapes.
Sildenafil's molecular structure fits very neatly into the active site of the CYP3A4 enzyme in the liver.
So the liver just grabs it easily.
Exactly. The liver is able to grab it, cleave off a piece of the molecule, render it inactive, and excrete it very efficiently.
And tadalafil.
Tadalafil, however, has a much bulkier, more rigid molecular framework.
So the garbage disposal struggles with it.
That's a great way to put it. While the CYP3A4 enzyme still recognizes it, it has a much harder time breaking it down. Tadalafil resists the liver's metabolic degradation simply because of its physical, structural geometry.
It forces the liver to work much slower to clear it out.
Yes, exactly.
So what does this all mean for the patient? If my doctor says, you need a PDE5 inhibitor, and I don't know any of this underlying chemistry, I might just pick the one I've seen more commercials for.
Very likely.
How does understanding this half-life difference change the actual practical decisions a patient makes?
It completely revolutionizes the dosing strategy.
Really? How so?
Because of sildenafil's short 4-hour half-life, it is impossible to maintain a steady level of the drug in your system without taking multiple pills a day.
Which you probably shouldn't do.
Which is clinically unsafe for this class of medication, yes. Therefore, it is only an on-demand medication. You have to plan your life around the pill's short window.
Right, you have to schedule your vasodilation.
But tadalafil's 17.5-hour half-life allows for an entirely different approach.
Because it stays in the blood so long.
Yes. Because it clears so slowly, pharmaceutical researchers realized they could formulate it as a low-dose daily medication.
A daily...
Right. If you take a very small dose of tadalafil every single day at the same time, the drug begins to stack in your system just enough to reach what we call a steady state.
Steady state. Meaning the amount you take in equals the amount your liver clears out, so the level never drops to zero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it takes 17.5 hours to clear half, taking a dose every 24 hours means you are always maintaining a baseline level of PDE5 inhibition.
That's fascinating.
The patient no longer has to plan around a pill. They have restored a continuous level of physiological readiness.
So the molecular structure literally dictated two completely different lifestyle applications.
Yes.
And this is where the danger of assumption comes in. If you don't know the mechanics, you are going to make assumptions based on whichever drug you tried first.
Absolutely.
Let's look at how these misunderstandings play out in the real world.
Yeah.
Because patients aren't blank slates, you know? They bring their past experiences to the pharmacy counter.
They always do.
Let's say a patient has been using sildenafil for years. They know the motorboat. They know it's powerful. They know it lasts a few hours. They know it's gone the next morning.
Okay.
Then their doctor switches them to tadalafil, but doesn't explain the 17.5-hour half-life. What happens?
You see a very dangerous, albeit entirely logical behavioral error known as dose stacking.
Dose stacking. Okay, walk me through that.
The patient takes the tadalafil on a Friday night. They experience the therapeutic effect. Saturday evening rolls around. They want the therapeutic effect again.
Sure.
Based on their years of experience with sildenafil, they assume the drug they took 24 hours ago has been entirely metabolized and excreted.
Because in their mind, 24 hours is a lifetime for a pill.
Right. So they take another full, high-dose pill.
Uh-oh.
But biologically, because of that 17.5-hour half-life, they still have well over 25% of Friday's dose actively circulating in their bloodstream.
Wow.
They have now compounded the active concentration of the drug far beyond the intended therapeutic window.
And what are the physical consequences of that? Are we just talking about a mild headache?
It can be far more severe than a mild headache.
Like what?
PDE5 isn't only located in the target therapeutic area.
Mm-hmm.
It is also present, though in lesser amounts, in other smooth muscles throughout the body.
Okay.
Dose stacking can lead to profound systemic vasodilation.
Systemic, meaning all over the body.
Yes. This manifests as severe flushing, debilitating headaches, nasal congestion, and crucially, significant drops in systemic blood pressure.
That sounds awful.
The patient feels terrible. And ironically, the extreme drop in blood pressure can actually negate the very therapeutic effect they were trying to achieve in the first place.
Because the body doesn't have enough pressure to drive the blood flow.
Exactly.
And what's tragic here is that the patient wasn't trying to abuse the medication.
No, not at all.
They weren't being reckless. They were operating logically, but they were applying the physics of the motorboat to the sailboat. They lacked the mechanical context.
What's fascinating here is how often these clinical failures are attributed to a weak drug or a worsening disease, when in reality it is purely an information failure.
Let's talk about another massive point of failure. The steak dinner scenario we started the show with.
Yes.
We talked about how fat solubility can ruin absorption. I want to look closely at the mechanics of food interaction because The iMedix materials emphasize this as a major differentiator.
It is a huge differentiator.
How exactly does a heavy meal physically block sildenafil from working?
We have to look at the mechanical and chemical reality of the gastrointestinal tract.
Okay, take us inside the gut.
When you ingest a high-fat meal, the ribeye steak, the butter, the heady cream, your stomach recognizes the immense caloric density of those lipids.
Right, it knows you just ate a bomb of calories.
The body wants to extract every single calorie, so the stomach immediately releases hormones like cholecystokinin, which significantly slow down gastric emptying.
Gastric emptying, that's the process of the stomach dumping its contents into the small intestine, right?
Correct. Specifically, it slows the opening of the pyloric sphincter at the base of the stomach.
Okay, so it locks the food in the stomach for longer.
Now, medications like sildenafil are primarily absorbed in the small intestine, not the stomach.
Oh.
So if you take a sildenafil pill right after that steak dinner, the pill dissolves in the stomach, but the active molecules get trapped in a thick mixture of digesting food and lipids, the chyme.
So the drug is just sitting in a traffic jam in the stomach, unable to get to the small intestine where the actual absorption receptors are.
Exactly. The high-fat content can delay the absorption of sildenafil by up to 2 hours.
2 hours.
And more importantly, can significantly reduce the maximum concentration, the Cmax, that the drug ever achieves in the bloodstream.
Because it's just stuck.
The drug is effectively neutralized by the digestive delay. The patient takes the pill, waits the hour, and experiences clinical failure.
And how does tadalafil handle this traffic jam?
This is a brilliant example of pharmacological engineering. Tadalafil's chemical formulation makes its absorption relatively independent of gastric transit time and lipid content.
Really?
Yes, you can take tadalafil on a completely empty stomach, or you can take it immediately following that heavy, high-fat anniversary dinner.
And the absorption curve, the amount of drug that reaches the bloodstream, remains essentially unchanged.
Unchanged.
That is a staggering difference for a patient.
It's massive.
I mean, that is the difference between a ruined anniversary and a successful evening. And if the package insert just says, take sildenafil without food and take tadalafil with or without food, the patient might not realize why it's so critical.
They probably won't.
The patient might think, oh, it just might give me a tummy ache.
When in reality, the fat is an absolute roadblock to the medication's efficacy.
And consider the psychological toll of that.
Oh, absolutely.
A patient experiences failure with sildenafil after a dinner out. They don't know about the gastric emptying mechanics. They panic.
They assume their vascular health is deteriorated overnight. The anxiety sets in. That anxiety triggers the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response.
Which floods the body with adrenaline.
Yes.
And adrenaline constricts blood vessels, right, which is the exact opposite of what the medication is trying to do.
Precisely. The mechanical failure caused by the food creates a psychological panic, which creates a physiological counterreaction that makes the condition even worse.
It's a vicious cycle.
And it is completely broken the moment an independent platform explains, it's not you, it's the fat and the ribeye blocking the absorption in your small intestine.
Wow. The relief a patient feels when they understand the mechanics must be profound.
It is. It removes the mystery and replaces it with manageable data.
It shifts them from being a victim of a mysterious chemical process to being the manager of their own biology.
Very well said.
But these daily misunderstandings, the timing, the food, they aren't just about efficacy. We have to pivot to where this gets genuinely dangerous. Let's look at the practical safety implications and the regulatory context of these mechanisms. Because if we combine these PDE5 inhibitors with other medications without understanding the pharmacology, we aren't just talking about a ruined evening.
No, we were talking about a trip to the emergency room.
This is the most critical aspect of the comparative protocol. We have established that both sildenafil and tadalafil are potent vasodilators.
They relax smooth muscle and open up blood vessels.
Because they do this, they both carry a strict, absolute contraindication regarding a specific class of cardiac medications known as nitrates.
Yes.
Okay, let's break down nitrates. The most common one people might know is nitroglycerin, the little pills people take for sudden chest pain.
Yes. Nitroglycerin is used to treat angina, which is chest pain caused by reduced blood flow to the heart muscle.
Right.
Now, how does nitroglycerin work? It is a nitric oxide donor.
A nitric oxide donor.
When you take it, it rapidly releases a massive amount of nitric oxide into the bloodstream.
Wait, nitric oxide, that's the signaling molecule we talked about earlier.
The very same one.
The one that triggers the production of cGMP to relax the blood vessels.
Exactly. So a patient taking a nitrate is intentionally flooding their system with the chemical signal to produce cGMP and widen the blood vessels.
Okay.
Now, imagine that same patient has also taken a PDE5 inhibitor.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right.
The nitrate is slamming the on switch, pumping out massive amounts of cGMP to open the blood vessels.
Yes.
And the PDE5 inhibitor has completely disabled the off switch that usually cleans it up.
That is precisely what happens. If we connect this to the bigger picture of hemodynamics, you are creating a perfect storm of runaway vasodilation.
Runaway vasodilation.
The blood vessels expand drastically. When the vessels expand that much, the vascular resistance drops to near zero.
And vascular resistance is what keeps our blood pressure up.
Yes.
It's like taking your thumb off the end of a running garden hose. The water is still flowing, but there's no pressure left to push it forward.
That is a perfect analogy. The systemic blood pressure bottoms out catastrophically.
Wow.
The heart experiences what we call a severe reduction in preload, meaning there isn't enough pressure to return blood to the heart chambers,
So the brain doesn't get enough oxygen.
resulting in sudden syncope or fainting. In severe cases, this profound hypotension can lead to a myocardial infarction or a heart attack.
The combination is absolutely lethal.
It can be, yes.
Okay, so the regulatory warning is very clear. Never combine a PDE5 inhibitor with a nitrate. But here is where the mechanical comparison of the two drugs becomes a matter of life and death.
Exactly.
Let's say a patient took their medication and then later experiences completely unrelated chest pain, and the paramedics arrive with nitroglycerin. How does the half-life difference change the safety protocol?
It changes the danger window entirely. And this is why emergency room physicians must know exactly which drug was taken, not just the class.
Okay.
Let's say the patient took the motorboat, Sildenafil. Because of its 4-hour half-life, the liver clears it relatively quickly. Clinical guidelines mandate that a minimum of 24 hours must pass after the last dose of Sildenafil before a nitrate could be safely administered.
Okay, 24 hours. The drug is effectively cleared. What if they took the sailboat, tadalafil?
Because of tadalafil's massive 17.5-hour half-life, the drug remains actively bound to the PDE5 enzymes for far longer.
Obviously.
If a patient takes tadalafil, clinical guidelines require withholding nitrate therapy for a minimum of 48 hours, 2 full days.
So what does this all mean for the patient? It means that if you take tadalafil on a Friday morning and you have a cardiac event on Saturday evening, 36 hours later, you are still inside the danger window.
Yes, you are.
If the paramedic assumes you took Viagra and gives you the nitrate after 36 hours because they think you're clear, they could induce a fatal drop in blood pressure.
Exactly.
The half-life isn't just a convenience metric. It is a critical safety parameter.
And this extends beyond just emergency nitrates. Patients who are on alpha blockers for prostate issues or medications that inhibit the CYP3A4 liver enzyme like certain antibiotics or even large amounts of grapefruit juice must understand these mechanics.
Grapefruit juice? Really?
Yes, if you consume something that blocks the CYP3A4 enzyme, your liver cannot clear the tadalafil, effectively turning that 17.5-hour half-life into an even longer, unpredictable duration.
Vastly increasing the risk of adverse effects.
Precisely.
This is exactly what we mean by patient empowerment. When you decode the regulatory jargon, you aren't just memorizing rules. You are building a mental map of your own physiology.
You are.
You begin to understand that taking medication is an active partnership between the chemical and your organs.
This raises an important question.
Yeah.
Why do we tolerate a system that obscures this mechanical map?
Right.
The warning label is merely the symptom of the interaction. The mechanical biology is the disease. When independent platforms like iMedix prioritize comparative analysis, they are handing the patient the decoder ring.
I love that, the decoder ring.
They are proving that when you understand the enzyme, you understand the timing. When you understand the timing, you understand the safety risk. It is a cascading sequence of empowerment.
It completely shifts your mindset. It's the difference between being told, don't touch the stove, it's hot, and taking a physics class where you learn exactly why the metal retains heat.
Right.
How thermodynamics transfer that heat to human skin, and exactly how many minutes it will take for that specific mass of metal to cool down to a safe temperature.
Yes.
You aren't just blindly following a command from a parent. You have mastered your physical environment.
And in modern healthcare, where doctor visits are short and pharmacy lines are long, that mastery is not a luxury. It is a fundamental necessity for survival and quality of life.
Which brings us to the ultimate conclusion of our deep dive today. We started out asking a very specific question: how does Cialis work versus Viagra?
We did.
But what we've actually uncovered is that exploring these two specific molecules is a masterclass in health literacy. We've seen how comparing mechanisms, looking at the NO-cGMP pathways, the CYP3A4 liver clearance, the physics of gastric emptying, is the only way to conquer real-world misunderstandings.
I think the most vital takeaway is that medications in the same class are never identical monoliths. The physical geometry of the molecule matters.
The shape of the boat matters.
The shape of the boat matters immensely, and relying on platforms that provide unbiased comparative data is the best way to arm yourself against the assumptions that lead to dangerous clinical errors.
Because you cannot safely manage what you do not fundamentally understand.
Exactly.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on as we wrap up. We just spent this entire time proving that exploring the mechanical differences between two seemingly identical drugs can completely rewrite your understanding of patient safety, dosage timing, and dietary interactions.
It really can.
So open your own medicine cabinet. Look at the over-the-counter painkillers. Are you taking ibuprofen or naproxen?
Good question.
They both reduce pain. But do you know which one has a 2-hour half-life and which one stays in your blood for 14 hours?
Most people don't.
Look at your allergy pills. Look at your daily supplements. What hidden mechanisms are quietly operating inside your own body right now, completely misunderstood, just waiting for you to do a little mechanical digging?
There's so much to learn.
The answers are out there, and they are fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration today.
It's been a pleasure.
Remember to stay curious, keep questioning the mechanics of the information you're given, and never stop doing your own deep dives. We will see you next time.